Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and it's our privilege to welcome back Sam Sorbo of Sam and Kevin Sorbo, authors of the new devotion, Share the Light, 40 World-Changing Devotions. Sam, welcome to Revealing the Truth. Welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. Sam is a writer, author, award-winning actress, international model, homeschool advocate, and former now radio show host. You're not hosting the show anymore.
Well, I don't have, I'm not hosting my own show, but I am guest hosting on other shows. So
okay, great.
I'm still keeping my feet wet I suppose is the way to put it.
Keeping your voice out there all the time. And Kevin is a director, producer, actor, and author. Together you released the film Let There Be Light, which in 2017 was the fourth highest grossing faith-based film, and now out on DVD at Walmart and all over the place. And you have a trip to Israel coming up that you have some openings. So if our audience is interested in traveling to the land of Israel in July with Kevin and Sam Sorbo, I think that you would be encouraged with their Messianic Guide, following the light, continuing this theme of sharing the light, let there be light, being a light unto the world. The Lord's word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Walking in the footsteps of Jesus, July 16th to July 26th, 2018. What's the best website for them to go to for the Israel information?
It's really easy. It's sorboisraeltrip.com.
That's the easiest one I've ever heard. So I love it.
Israeltrip.com. It's 10 days walking in the footsteps of Jesus, floating in the Dead Sea, going to the Mount, the Garden of Gethsemane, and just really experiencing the history and the truth behind the history. I'm so excited. And we're bringing the kids, which is really kind of, for me as a home education person, that there's a lot that means so much to me. So I've put off this trip for years because I wanted to bring the kids. I don't really travel well without them. They're like my Amex cards.
Right.
And so I waited until our youngest turned 12. And now we're going to go. It's 10 days in the Holy Land. It's so exciting. So go to sorboisraeltrip.com and come join us and bring your kids. We're really encouraging families to join in.
You know, I've taken children on the trips with me. And when we go to the Elah Valley, we usually have a small child and a very large man somewhere, and we reenact David and Goliath. And we split them up to the two sides of the hills, shouting at each other back and forth. And then you see the little David go into the riverbed, the dry riverbed, and find 5 stones. And we have a slingshot for him, and we reenact David and Goliath with family members that are traveling with us. So it's really, it is a family trip. The educational aspect of it, the biblical aspect of it, seeing the word, the people of the book and the land of the book, it will make you feel like you've come home. And because of your Jewish background, you have an entitlement under the law of return in order to become a citizen and pass that on to Kevin, and your children would all have the right of dual citizenship in Israel.
That's it. That's fast. I actually hadn't thought of that. I guess I'm happy as an American, but I maybe I should give that some thought.
Well, think about it, because your children having, and it's going to be through the mother's line of the Jewish lineage, when they get to be in the 18 to 24 range, they're entitled to one free trip to Israel under the birthright program, which would encourage them to want to possibly live in Israel. So they have some great opportunities within the traditional Jewish community. Whether or not you've always been raised in a Christian environment, therefore you didn't know And so because of that, it's not held against you. Where because of me, in my case, I was raised in a Jewish home, traditional Jewish. My mother is Jewish, grandmother, great-grandmother, great-great-great-great-great. And so they hold that against me because I've made a profession of faith in Jesus, and they deny my citizenship in Israel because of that.
Wow, interesting.
Yes. So, let there be light. This was a creation of you and Kevin collaborating. Sean Hannity provided some of the support and the funding as the executive producer of this. And it's taken on, and I want to compliment you, because I probably get 5 devotionals a week sent here to the studio. Interview me on this devotional, interview me on that devotional. And I look at the devotionals, and they're all about your personal journey to find a study in Ephesians, or your personal journey to find a study in Philippians. And so, they're 40 days, they're 6 months, or whatever they are, but they are not external, they are purely internal. They are all self-focused, not outwardly focused. And this is probably, in my recollection, the first devotion that I've seen which takes it from what can I do to perfect my walk? What can I do to clean up my house? What can I do to be a better mom? What can I do to be more forgiving? It's actually, how can I share the light? Meaning I'm taking these concepts and I'm going outside. They're externally focused. And I commend you for that, because the idea of being a light, people always are like a moth drawn to a flame. Okay, I just have to be there flickering, burning, and people are going to be drawn to me. If you build it, they will come. But that's not how you change the world.
Right. And, in our culture now, oh boy, I mean, this is such a huge topic, and I love the fact that you focused on the outward action, because there are a couple of different things. There are a couple of different mechanical things that are happening here. One is that we're losing our culture because we've been silenced by the politically correct, and we've been told to sit down and shut up. In Harvard, there was a Christian organization, I think they were Catholic actually, organization of students, and one of their office holders made a profession to be in a lesbian relationship, which is not within the teachings of the church for them, and so they asked her to step down. At which point, Harvard said, "We revoke your status as a student organization," because we've come to the point where you can be a Christian, you just can't say Christian things or think Christian thoughts. You can be a Christian, you just can't hold any of your beliefs. I mean, that's really what we've come to. And it's unfortunate, because we are a Judeo-Christian nation. We're founded on Judeo-Christian tenets that don't exist in other belief systems. For instance, the anti-slavery belief that we have, that we hold very strongly to, stems from this idea of freedom in Jesus Christ, not an idea of freedom that came from somewhere else, because everywhere in the world at the time, slavery was part of the culture. In nearly, I don't believe that there is a culture that didn't practice some form of human slavery. And so we're at a little bit of a crossroads in the United States now. And the reason that I thought that the reason that we did the movie, the reason that I am, in a sense, evangelical in that way, is because I think that the way to preserve the greatest nation that has ever been, and likely will ever be, is to preserve our Judeo-Christian heritage. And the only way to do that is through storytelling. Jesus was a storyteller. We've been storytellers through, the Jews were huge storytellers. That's where we got the Old Testament, right? And that's the way to preserve your culture. And the stories that we're telling children today in our schools are not only lies, they're offensive. I mean, it's insane what we're teaching our children in schools. Number one, that they're accidents of nature. That's not only offensive, it's not only a lie, it is actually tantamount to child abuse to teach a child that they're an accident of nature, that they have no purpose, because that's what that is. If you extrapolate that, and then we wonder why our children are sort of hopeless and acting out in malicious, malevolent ways. Well, it's because we've taught them that they're useless and that there's no hope and that there's nothing after this. YOLO, baby. You only live once. You know what I mean? So bringing that back around full circle, when the movie hit such a resonance, and partly, we learned a lot in this process. I knew that the movie was going to touch people, but I didn't realize that it was going to touch them so profoundly, which it did. And so Kevin and I were fielding so many emails from people. And the upshot was that audiences sat in the theater and applauded at the end of the movie, and then they sat through the credits. They just sat there and let the message sort of wash over them and sink in. And then as they left the theater, they talked to complete strangers. Why? Because the movie brought them to a place where they had to acknowledge that we are all in this together, and that we have this thing called humanity that we share. That we're all human, and I can disagree with you, but that doesn't mean that I don't love you. Which is really the strongest message of Christianity, is love each other. Sure, you can have your disagreements, you can have your differences, but we all share this, that we are sons and daughters, right? And so we're called to love each other. And the more that I realized that resonated, that, Kevin and I talked about it, and I said, well, what else can we do? And I'm still getting, people are now seeing the movie on DVD, and they're emailing, hey, I finally saw the movie. It didn't come to a theater near me, but we got the DVD. And I sure hope we can do that thing at the end. I sure hope we can really do that thing at the end. And I'm like, you know what? You can, because you can organize it. That's what this is about. That's why we did the book, is so that people would think, okay, how can I take the joy that I have within and share it with other people? And I'll tell you something. When you do for others, you get more than you give. You receive. And it's in the doing for others that you grow, and that you become more firm in your faith, and that you can see God working. And so that's what the devotional's about. And, you can give there are so many different levels, and it's not about money, specifically, of course. Of course, everybody needs money. Find a charity, give money, but that doesn't really come back to you in the same way that if you actually go into, and it can be as simple as volunteering one Sunday instead of going to the sermon, or after the first, if you go to the first service, after your first service, go to the second service and just volunteer in the kids' church and say, you know what, I just want to volunteer today. I do a Bible study, and once they do a whole circuit, and one day during that circuit is my group's turn to help in the kids. And so we don't get to do our Bible study as ladies sitting in a group and having our, and it's a lovely thing to do a Bible study with a group of ladies and have that discussion and have that interaction. And, there's that social aspect of that. But I'll tell you something, the days that I go and I help out with the babies, and I volunteer for babies because I love babies. Other people are like, whoa, no babies for me. Give me the 5-year-olds. That's much better, But that nourishes me. And so I want to encourage people to understand that they can get so much out of giving. And that's what this nation, we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps. And nowadays it's more about, what can the government do for me? What can other people do for me? And that's not where you get your best nourishment. So I want to encourage people. The book tells some stories from the film. There are a lot of foundational narratives that go through the film. And so we touch on those in the book, and we touch on ways to do outreach. I mean, part of the movie is the grieving process. And there are people who are grieving out there who need help. And they maybe just need a hug. They maybe just need a phone call. Hey, I'm just calling. I got 5 minutes. I thought I'd reach out, see how you're doing. And they just need just a little bit of interaction to know that there are people who are still of this world who care. Or maybe just call them on the anniversary. Say, hey, I know today's a hard day for you. Just want you to know I'm thinking of you. That kind of thing. Because our shared humanity is what really impacts us.
The whole concept of light always reminds me that all the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of even one candle.
Isn't that beautiful?
We think of this present darkness or this coming darkness, but darkness cannot extinguish, darkness cannot overcome the light. The light that's an imperative, it's a definitive. The light has overcome the darkness. Right. So when you share your light, and when we look at the tabernacle, we look at the lampstand, we look at the Hanukkah for the Feast of Dedication, you take a candle, the servant candle, which is the middle candle, and you use it to light the other lights. And it's the only thing you can give away that does not diminish yourself. You're not giving out of you don't get diminished, it gets added to. It's a compounding effect that when I share my light, the world gets brighter. I don't get dimmer. And when you realize that you've given us, and this is, in the Word of God, there's many times God tells us what to do. And then He leaves us to our own devices as to how to do it. And people find that to be a daunting task. They don't understand. When He says, write my word on the doorpost of your house, am I really supposed to take a Sharpie? And am I really supposed to write it on the doorpost of my house? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Well, I know families that built their homes, and while the home was being built, went through the entire and put scripture on every single 2x4 throughout the house, so when they sheetrocked it in, it was a house. When the foundation was poured, they wrote their favorite scripture in the concrete of the poured foundation because they truly wanted to write it on their house, build it on a foundation. Right. So what you and Kevin have done with Share the Light is you've given me the how-to, and I think that this fills a huge void. There's so many what-tos out there, but the how-tos, and every one of these ideas that you present in fulfillment are things that people can do, that you are not suggesting that they devote their lives or that they leave the comfort of their home and move to Ethiopia and take on the role of a missionary.
That's always an option.
It is an option. It is certainly an option. But you become a part of this compounding effort where one is the greatest number that there is. There's this compounding of one. 1 + 1 = 1. God shows us that. For this reason, a man will leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one. Two become one, which makes them stronger than two. And you add one to it, and one to it, and one to it, and all of a sudden you have the power of unity. God says, behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together in unity. Well, that unity is sharing the light, which is what the devotion is all about.
Right.
You rose to the challenge because people said there's a need. I want to be able to do what it is. I feel charged. I feel energized by the movie. I feel compelled to do something, but I just don't know how to start. It's that first step in the journey that's always the hardest. And so you took the time to really share the concept of light in the darkness and how to prepare oneself to begin this journey by finding the light, grabbing a hold of the light, and carrying the torch into the community itself with not difficult tasks. Where did you draw the inspiration from? I know it was a combination of the movie and some of the practical aspects of it, but in your life, as you saw how you live, and where you make the most difference, where you have the highest level of impact, it's in doing for others.
And I tell one of those stories in the devotional, actually. When I first moved to LA, I was an aspiring actress and working a lot, and I also had a lot of downtime because when you're young and single, the world's your oyster. You're just out, right? And I went to Cedars-Sinai. They had a really great volunteer program going there. So I signed up to volunteer in the hospital, and I had done candy striping. I had done hospital work before. I was pre-med when I went to college and stuff. So I sort of had that, I don't know, medical attitude or whatever you want to call it. And so I signed up for the volunteer program and went through the training, and I started volunteering in the ER. And it's an amazing thing when you leave your life and you go to serve others. As a volunteer, you don't expect anything in return. It's not a job. It's completely different, because a job, you get paid. It's an exchange, right? But when you're volunteering, you're there to give. You're just imparting whatever you can, or whatever you're called to, right? And I served people who were in dire straits. I had sickle cell patients. I had gunshot patients, only one, but Cedars isn't like, central downtown somewhere. But I had some very sick people that I was basically called to minister to in a volunteer. And I also didn't have like the responsibility of the medical care, obviously, because I was just a volunteer. But at the same time, my job description was to care for these people and to be a caring voice in a very busy environment where the people who got paid the big dollars, they were called to the important stuff, right? I say the important stuff because obviously medical care is very important, but there's just the emotional care that was sort of my job to sort of fill in. So if they had medical questions, I was more able to answer not specific medical question, but sort of generalized, when will I get my test results back? The doctors don't have time to answer those questions because they're busy doing the testing and getting the results and stuff. And I'll tell you something, it was incredibly uplifting to be out of my problems and serving other people. And then when I would leave the hospital, my problems didn't seem like much at all. And that's where I got this idea that, wow, being in service is really doing me a great deal of good. And it's funny because there is that whole paradox of, if you're getting good out of it, is it really altruistic? Because then are you really doing it for yourself, or are you doing it for the other? So you get into that nasty circle of who's gaining the most out of this. And so anyway, that was maybe a part of the impetus to put this devotional together. It was also kind of an answer, as you pointed out, that people saw the movie and they're like, okay, so what's next? So, now what? Now I've got this. I feel this. I get it. I want to bring it out further. And that was partly, I did the movie, and when I was done with the movie, it was like, okay, how can I further this message? It's gone this far so far, and let's get more people involved. And so, by the way, I should mention that if you want the the devotional together with the DVD would make a great Father's Day gift or a great Mother's Day gift, or, and what a great idea. In fact, there are a couple in here that I point out, call a friend, do this one with a friend, get a friend involved, because it's great to socialize and it's great to meet somebody for drinks, right? But how great would it be to, instead of just meeting for drinks and chatting, something that you actually won't remember a week from now or 2 weeks from now? What was I doing last Tuesday night? Do something that'll make a memory, that'll really create a memory. I'm as a mom, obviously, I'm really focused on creating memories with my kids. I look at old photos and some of the things I remember only because I have that photo from that thing, right? But some of the things I remember because I created it with my children.
Right.
And we can create those things for other people. Also, we know that people who are involved and specifically older people who are involved in their communities, involved in relationships with other people, no matter what ages, they live longer lives, they live healthier lives. It's really good for us as human beings. We're gregarious in nature, and so it's good for us to be part of community. And so that's, kind of part and parcel of it. It's also the second devotional that I've been involved with. My first one was Teach from Love. I think we talked about that last time, and that was, for families to. But again, it's this idea of community, right? The family comes together and the family studies this, and I don't put it down. If you love doing your devotional just with yourself, just between you and God, that's good, that's great. But let's take our message and walk it out among the populace, because I'll tell you something, the populace really needs the message today. They really need it.
Well, you're exactly right. We're talking with Sam Sorbo, co-author with her husband Kevin Sorbo of the new devotional, Share the Light, 40 World-Changing Devotions, carrying on the theme of the movie Let There Be Light. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to dig into some of these very practical, very real, and very life-changing devotions and actions that go with them. We'll be right back. Shalom. I'm the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, Executive Director of Igniting a Nation and host of the daily TV program Revealing the Truth, seen live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time at www.ianbn.com, and then replayed throughout the day and night via our website. All of our segments can be seen on the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel. Since our launch in January of this year, we've expanded our global reach to over 54 countries with a social media following of over 125,000. Our commitment is to bring you the most in-depth interviews with authors, subject matter experts, and thought leaders from around the world. We have interviewed guests from Israel, Brazil, England, India, and all across North America. All of our authors are featured on the Books and Media page on our website, www.ianbn.com. There you can find a direct link to the book you want to order, and we receive a small commission directly from Amazon. There is no cost to you for this service. In addition to our daily teachings and interviews, we make available to you the archive of all of the interviews on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram channels. Our live program is available from our homepage, and there is never a charge to you for any of this access. We made the decision long ago that we would remain a commercial-free resource that would not be influenced by any pressure from any outside company. There are only two ways that we are able to continue to operate this ministry and provide you with the only live 4-hour daily Christian television talk show program. The first is through your support and tax-deductible contributions to Igniting a Nation. These can be made directly through the donate button on the website or sent through the mail to Igniting a Nation, 2700 Corporate Drive, Suite 120, Birmingham, Alabama, 35242. The other way we support the program is by offering you a unique opportunity to have access to over 10 years worth of teachings on a subscription basis. The teaching archives contains all of my prior sermons, Torah studies, prophecy in the news videos, and much more for the low subscription price of $5 per month. This subscription grants you unlimited access to over 800 hours of content not available elsewhere and is updated weekly with the most current prophecy classes. In addition to 20 hours of original TV programming each weekday, we invite you to join us live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings for our Prophecy in the News classes. The times and locations are listed on our events page on the website www.ianbn.com. Every day, you and I are faced with the challenge of where we will go to hear the truth. We are committed to bring you the only program of its kind that covers the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. We cannot do this without your support. Since we launched on January 5th, 2017, we have aired over 300 individual teachings, interviews, and commentaries not available anywhere else. We are now working side by side with almost every major Christian publishing house to bring you the most in-depth feature interviews possible. Our one-hour features address every subject that affects the believer's life. We are hearing of salvations from the Middle East, Africa, and all across the United States. Lives are being changed every day, and we have only just begun. Our mission is to become your trusted resource and grant you access to the people, tools, and information you need to grow in your relationship with the Lord. You can help us by liking us on social media and through your financial support. We know you have many choices in who you support, but we are prayerfully asking you to consider helping us keep revealing the truth, true to our calling, to cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth like no other program available. Donate today and help us bring the message to the four corners of the earth. Visit www.ianbn.com and donate, buy a book, or subscribe to our teaching archives. Without you, we do not exist. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Sam Sorbo of Sam and Kevin Sorbo, authors of Share the Light, 40 World Devotions, World-Changing Devotions, based on the message of the movie, now out and DVD, Let There Be Light. Sam, welcome back to the program.
Thank you again.
Sam, which one of these devotions did you find to be life-changing for you as you lived it out? You mentioned the volunteering at the hospital, and that's one of the things you do discuss in here as doing volunteer work. But I'm sure that you have experienced many, if not all of these yourself, as was the motivation. Which did you find was the most life-changing for the other person, and the residual was back to you?
Oh gosh, that is a really tough question. Because the one that impacted me the most is sort of the reason that I did the book, which was my time in the hospital.
Right.
The upshot of that is because I did so much time. I was there every week, and I picked up other people's shifts sometimes, and obviously traded mine and that too. I think that really what it comes down to is if we can find the opportunity to give, it impacts us. And so that is sort of the ultimate message behind this little book is find the opportunities to give. And we're living in a culture that sort of demotes that idea because we're living in kind of selfish times. And so I want to get the message of giving sort of back into the vernacular. We need to teach our children to give. We need to show them what giving looks like. I took my kids when they were really little really little. I guess my youngest was maybe 5 or 6. And we went to do a church service project, and I'd never really done one like that before. We went into a mobile home community of geriatric individuals, and we just knocked on doors. I think, as I recall, they had people like sign up that yes, they would accept help or whatever. And we got to this lady's house, and she needed help. She just needed help sort of cleaning it up. And we spent 2 hours, and we just helped clean up. And my kids, on the way home, they were like, why doesn't she have somebody come and help her clean up? And I'm like, well, she probably can't afford to pay somebody to come and help clean up. And we, as a church, that was our outreach that day. And it was such a simple little thing. And it was such a great way to spend a morning for me with my kids. Like, did my house need to be cleaned up? Yes, but cleaning someone else's house was more fun for them.
Well, of course, cleaning up their room is a chore, but going out and doing a service project is in Yiddish, it's called a machaya, a blessing. It's a gift to somebody else.
Right.
Throughout the devotion, you almost in each one of them say, don't forget to tell them why and who you're doing this for. You're doing it for the glory of God. You're doing it to bring light to the light of the world. And giving people the words, and this is what you've done in this. You say, here's what to do, here's how to do it, and here's the words to say, is more equipping than other devotions that I've seen, because it says, and don't forget to remind them why you're doing this and who it is that sent you to do this. People don't know how to respond to grief. They don't. I'm sorry for your loss is the best
Or
we can.
illness.
Yeah.
A lot of times. I mean,
Right.
I remember I was in hospital with a friend who was dying, had been given basically a life sentence. And another friend, mutual friend, came in and started talking to him in a very loud voice. And I said to him, he's sick. He's not hard of hearing, I remember visiting my friend's grandmother in the nursing home, and he was 6'6", and she was in a wheelchair, and he stood there necessarily talking down at her. It was completely unintentional. And I looked at him and I go, hey, take a knee. You know what I mean? Get down on your knee and eye to eye with her. And, I said it nicely, but I'm kind of like, you're 6'6". You should understand that you are very, very tall.
Right.
And you need to know what to do with that. And because she was like in the wheelchair, like trying to, anyway, people don't know how to behave around these things. There's a thing that we do in acting that if you don't feel it, fake it. If you fake it, then you start to feel it. Just the action, if you put the action in your body, the feelings will come afterwards. So, and that's typical. That's not like ironclad, but that's sort of typical. So you might not feel like going and helping at your church community service projects, which, it could be weeding the garden at the church. It could be going, there was one thing, it was funny. We were staying at this place and there was a park down the street, not a park, but a stretch of road down the street that where cars would park and people would go to the beach. And it was completely littered. People had just, partied late at night or whatever, and just thrown their beer bottles and their soda cans and their wrappers and stuff. And I took the kids down there one day with some trash bags, and I said, we're just going to clean it up. Be very careful what you pick up. Just pick it up, put it in the bag. Pick it up, put it in the bag. And a woman walked by and stopped and watched us for a minute, and then she said, thank you for doing that. That's awesome. It doesn't take that much. But if it's just a little bit, just get it, and it gets you out of the house, and it gets you. We were in the sunshine, and we were just, working as a family, and it was kind of fun. It was just this little stupid little thing, but for an hour we picked it up, and then the next time we walked to the beach, it looked nicer. It didn't feel so awful walking past a trash heap. You know what I mean? So we should be investing in our communities. We should be investing in our surroundings for our own sake, as well as for the sake of others.
This devotion helps you become the someone else. When somebody says, well, there's a job that needs to be done, we'll get someone else to do it. All of a sudden, your book helps you become someone else. And you're the one they're now talking about. You're the one that's now out there doing it. And,
Right.
and you can only do so many things in so many ways, and serve on so many committees and serve in so many ministries. But these are not, commit yourself to 24 hours.
No, typically in here it's a one-off.
Right.
It's if you're thinking, okay, this weekend I'm just going to relax, I'm going to watch a Lifetime movie or watch the game or whatever, right? And you're planning on the void of the weekend to just sort of check out. I'm saying, instead of doing that, take 2 hours, check in, and then check out. Check out a little bit, but take those 2 hours, check in, and accomplish something, and you'll feel better. You will. You talked about grief. There's a great story in here of going into the grieving household and polishing the shoes of all the kids that have to go to the funeral, and just polishing their shoes so their shoes look good, because nobody's going to think of that.
Right.
So you don't have to go in and sit there in an uncomfortable silence while the widow is weeping, or the daughter is weeping, or the son is, crying, or, you don't have to do that. Be of service. Get that sort of mindset. How can I be of service in this situation? And do it, and do that. And don't ask for thanks. And you say, tell them who sent you. Yeah, you can tell them who sent you. You don't have to tell them who sent you. They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out, because it's by our works that people will know who we are, right? By our behaviors. But be Isaiah. Be here am I, Lord, send me. Be that person, and just ask. I'm sure that that opportunities are all around you. But if you don't open yourself up to hearing the call, right? If you're not open to understanding that the opportunity is there, then you won't be able to grasp it. And in every one of these opportunities, I'm saying opportunity because it is an opportunity for you. Sure, it's a great opportunity for whoever you're helping, but it's an opportunity for you. You never know who you're going to meet.
Every inner city has inner city problems. Every community has homes for the aged, has nursing homes, has assisted living homes. There's opportunities in your own neighborhood. I have a next door neighbor that every now and then needs assistance, and it's always a blessing to me when she calls over the fence and I come out the back of the house and she asks for help for something. It's always, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. She says, "Are you busy?" And the answer is always no. And I'm busy all the time. You're busy all the time. We're all busy all the time. But the answer is no.
In comparison to what, right? In comparison to an individual who's in need? No, I'm not busy. In comparison to, Mom, can you take me to the store? Yeah, I'm busy.
Right.
I'm too busy for that. I'm kidding.
But we're called to be the hands and feet of
Sure.
Messiah, but we aren't given the guidebook on how to be the hands and feet. And I see this kind of as one of those guidebooks to how you can be the hands and feet
Right. An everyday today guidebook. I mean, we have the guidebook, right?
right.
And it's biblical. Be the hands and feet. Here am I, Lord. It's biblical. It's throughout. David stepped up. I'll take on Goliath, and he was David, and everybody kind of laughed at him. And Saul tried to fit him with the armor,
Right.
which didn't fit him because he was too small. And in fact, I believe, in a sense, sent him to his death because he figured if the Philistines killed a child, they would look really bad, and he would, you know what I mean? There was some stuff going on. But I want to point out, one of the things that I did in the book is I left blank pages to write in.
Yes.
So you can use this as a little bit of a journal, which I think would be interesting if, when you go back over it at the end of the year, or at the end of, reading through it and doing some of these things, it might be kind of nice. I like, when I do a devotional, I like to write in it. And so that's why I did that.
Well, you have an opportunity to keep a record.
Yeah.
And as you're raising your children, you want to give them examples as to, and you're talking about looking at family pictures, and I wouldn't have remembered that if I didn't have the record of it, as you do some of these things, and it says take a friend. Well, you reflect back on it and you remind that friend a year or two, hey, do you remember the time that you and I went and we actually did this? It builds for a foundation that allows you to share your faith in not an outwardly evangelical way, but in a way that people will stop and notice, like that woman that stopped and noticed you and your children cleaning up the area around where cars were being parked. And you want to provoke them to ask you the question, why are you doing this? Why did you pay for my meal? Why did you come down to serve here? I came down because God loves you, and because this was the command of Jesus, is to love your neighbor as yourself. I would want somebody to do this for my mother. I would want somebody to do this for my friend. I would want to do this for somebody else. And so you convey that very clearly in something that, there's simple yet profound is, to me, the most effective for people that are not, they say, don't make me a scholar, I'm not a scholar. Don't make me dig and do a word study and find the 400 times that this word is used in the scripture. Give me something that's simple but profound, where I can feel like I can make a difference. And that's exactly what this is. It's kind of a handbook for how to make a difference one day at a time.
Yeah. And then we encourage people to post on social media about what they've done as encouragement to others, right? So hashtag LTBL, and this is what happened, and this was the response, and trying to start a movement.
Well, it starts with one person.
Sure.
As all great movements and all great journeys do.
Yeah.
So, Devotion 38 is one that I found to be one of the more sterling ones, and that's how to hypocrite-proof yourself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that say, I don't want to go to church there. They're a bunch of hypocrites, and say, well, then you're the perfect fit. I can't lead a congregation because I'm a hypocrite. I'm the perfect fit because I was leading a congregation of hypocrites. We all go through that hypocritical analysis that says that, no, I'm not the Messiah, but the job's taken. There's not an opening. There's not a help wanted ad. Holy Spirit, there's an opening for the Holy Spirit, apply within. So we all fall short of the glory of God. But tell me what you were thinking with this one.
political correctness has silenced us. And that is slavery in thought. And so we're at a place now where we're not even allowed to think certain things, like it's taboo. And yet we live in a nation that was founded on freedom of speech. I mean, seriously founded on the freedom to speak our minds. Just the letter that we wrote, the Declaration of Independence, was treasonous. Treasonous. Death. It meant death to the signers, right? And so we fought a whole war about the freedom to speak our minds, the freedom to criticize our rulers, which then became our government, right? And the freedom to restrain our government. And today we are subjects of a new kind of ruler of political correctness. And so I wanted to embolden people to not be subjugated in that way. I guess that's really the best explanation I have.
Well, you say often we are too afraid to speak up even when we know the right thing to do. And you say be bold in truth. Pick one of these actions to follow through with today. And if you're asked, be ready to share the reason why you're doing it. Tell the thoughtful truth. Jump in to help someone. Confidently choose purity. Leap to someone's defense. Or reassuredly listen to a friend. These are pearls of wisdom contained in here about how to ignite the world for the Lord, one person at a time, to share your light, to take your light where there is darkness. And there is darkness in every community, in every home, in every family. There's something that you can be a part of in making a difference in someone's life. It's called Share the Light, 40 World-Changing Devotions by Sam and Kevin Sorbo, with a foreword by Franklin Graham, building on this Let There Be Light concept of trying to make the world brighter and better for the kingdom of God to shine through. Let your light so shine that man would see your good works and bring glory to your Father in heaven. Sam Sorbo, always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for being with us again on Revealing the Truth.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. And that brings to an end our live broadcast day. But that doesn't mean we go off the air. Here at Igniting the Nation Broadcasting Network, we broadcast 24 hours a day. Both programs, Revealing the Bible and Revealing the Truth, air all throughout the day, throughout every time zone in the world, until we see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time in Birmingham, or Central Daylight Time, whatever it is right now, in Birmingham, Alabama. We bid you shalom.